Good morning, viewers. This is your anchor, Krizanya Solo. You're now watching Hornbill TV's newsroom. The VIP culture, often associated with exclusivity, luxury and privilege, has become a significant aspect of modern society, ranging from entertainment and sports to politics and also fashion. But what does it really mean to be a VIP? How has this culture evolved over the time, and what impact does it have on both those who are part of it and the society at large? Today, we're diving deep into the world of VIP culture and its complexities with our associate editor, El Muli. Hello, El. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. First of all, El, I'd like to ask you, what do you think defines VIP culture today? Is it about access, influence, or something deeper?
Yeah, I think it's self-explanatory. We treat certain people in certain ways. And when we talk of VIP culture, I think in Nagaland, we mostly associate it with people who have positions of power in the government. But generally, if we talk of VIP culture, I think it's basically a language of access treatment, a language of exclusivity, as you have spoken. And it's preferential treatment that we give to others based on their status. It could be power, it could be positions, it could be money. So there's a level of influence that goes into deciding who is treated as important and someone who is not treated as likewise. So basically it's a treatment of people that is based solely on their status and their position.
All right, El, so how would you differentiate the difference between VIP culture in entertainment, like celebrities and influencers, and that of a VIP culture in other sectors, such as politics or business?
No, I think generally there are semantics involved that is a little more complex and a little more nuanced here. Of course, VIP culture in its many and varied forms travels across all sections of the community. Even in the family, I think you will be aware that, you know, the rich cousins, what we call, the rich cousins and the rich uncles are the ones that get a little preferential treatment than we would do to those who do not share the same position or the power or the level of influence. And even among friends, even among colleagues and contemporaries, I think that kind of a nuanced treatment is there. So it is not exclusive to a certain sector of the society, let's say the government. It is not solely exclusive to it. It is everywhere, as you have said, entertainment sectors, in schools, in colleges, in governments. So I think, however, the only difference is that when it comes to VIP culture in the context of government positions or people who have a level of influence in the government, I think the sense and the intensity of respect is a little more than you would see in certain other aspects of community living, in the family or even in the entertainment industry. I have been privileged to speak with some of the biggest names in the music and movie industry across the world over the past 20 years. And the whole VIP culture thing is decided only by, let's say, the level of success, celebrity level of, let's say, a movie star or a rock star. So, and you will see that there are a lot of common people among, let's say, the audience, and I have been there too. I have worked with some of the biggest rock stars in the world over the past about 20 years, and it's not uncommon to see common people mingling with entertainment stars in the audience, and I have had such a privilege earlier also. But when it comes to government, I think the level of VIP treatment is extreme. There's a segregation of seats. You're not allowed to talk to them. You're not allowed to interact with them. There is no interaction between the two. So it's a lot more different being a government VIP than it is being a rock star or a music VIP, you know, or somewhere else. And even in the community also, there's a level of nuanced treatment that is given to people who have certain leadership positions, or people who are considered to be people with resources. So I think it's very nuanced. It's very nuanced.
As we speak about the negative impacts of VIP culture on common man, like how does the VIP culture contribute to the growing inequality between politicians and ordinary citizens, and what are some real life examples of how this divide the affected communities?
Oh, I think we see this culture everywhere. It's not just in Nagaland, it's everywhere. One of the first is, see, we don't need to have to say VIP culture to decide something what people want, especially in terms of respect and power and resources. We have in our saying in our communities also, you know, because there is such an overflow of money which translates into good cars, which translates into good houses, lands, and even free living, women, drinking, you know. So there are people who want to have those without having to go through the work that is demanded of them to be able to achieve those riches, resources, the good cars and the good houses, for instance. So our young people, and I think across all generations, they have always wanted to get rich quicker, for instance. And through that means you want to have a certain level of respect that others command. The only difference is there are people who have worked for it, and there are people who have not worked for it. So I think the negative impact is that it is putting a lot more pressure on the community, especially the younger generations, to be able to, or at least they hanker for that kind of a position or a state of resources. So there's a lot more pressure on, let's say, the parents who are not able to afford that, or who will have to go deeper into their pockets to ensure the kind of education and the kind of industry that they want their sons and their daughters to be in, so that they will be able to come to a position of power and to have resources to exercise a certain level of influence where people respect them, or where people acknowledge their presence and their resources and their influence. So that is VIP culture, and I think it is a complex topic to be talking about in just a few minutes, but I think that's one of the pressures. Recently we have read about the news from ANI, where this guy, I think he was a 17 or 18-year-old, he wanted to buy an iPhone, and for that he stole his father's entire pension to buy that iPhone. And you know, why would anyone want to give, we know about the whole selling kidney and buying the iPhone jokes, and all these are also a part of that VIP culture that we have going on. It gives you influence, it gives you standing, it gives you acknowledgement. So until you get to that, you'll keep on trying without having to work hard. In that sense, the level of influence, it's not just about government, it's not about having bodyguards and having resources and good houses and land. It is also about garnering influence among people whose validation you seek.
All right, so having said this, what is the most common VIP culture or trend that you've seen or experienced here in our state?
I think it will be the whole government side of thing, and of course there are economic hierarchies, there are social hierarchies where there are people, the haves, and there are people who are the have-nots. So I think this differentiation is made clear everywhere. It's not just in Nagaland, it's everywhere. New York, Los Angeles, if you go to Los Angeles downtown, you will see beautiful cars, imported cars like supercars and hypercars. But you will see like literally hundreds of homeless people, drug addicts there. But to the north of Los Angeles, it's somewhat different. It's cleaner, it's more urban, and it's a business center, so you don't see that much. So there's a lot of differentiation in this. But then, like I said, it's not just in Nagaland, it's everywhere else. In Nagaland, I think when we talk of VIP culture, we are basically talking about the whole, like I said, the government side of things. Necessarily, we are generally compared to others, we are modest people. But the VIP treatment comes only for people who are in the government and who are holding government positions or who have a certain level of influence with resources. So I remember way back 2018, if I'm not mistaken, that the government of Nagaland issued a statement saying we are going to end VIP culture. So that was a little bit weird because VIP culture is not a practice. It's not a practice. VIP culture is a mindset. But anyway, so they issued a press statement saying that the government of Nagaland will be doing away with VIP culture. Now, you will not have big lights on your cars. Second, you won't have all this big shiny designation on your cars. You won't have escorts when you move in public areas. And then you will not accept any gifts when you go to all these community functions, student organizations, community organizations. When you're called to be a chief guest, you're not to accept anything from them. So that was the kind of VIP culture that I think the government felt, of course, which is, but like I said, it's not a lifestyle. It is not a practice. It is a mindset. You could be the president of the United States, but if you are a modest and humble person, you wouldn't like to go with all those trappings anyway. And there was also a time in Nagaland, I think it was in the 2010 to 11 era, I think the government said, from now on, let's not call the chief guest. I think there was a press release in this regard, so it was a bit weird, but anyhow, so the kind of VIP culture we have is that if you are a government officer, if you have bodyguards, if you have money, so to say, then automatically you deserve my respect. Automatically you deserve the first and the front seated chair in the function. You're the first to be given food. So that is it's actually the community's fault because we worship power and we worship resources. So it's not the government's fault, anyone's fault, it's the community. And I think everywhere people worship that kind of influence, and I think that's what we all aspire for in that sense. But when you do it in excess, I think we create a lot of disparities between the have and the have-nots, the rich and the poor, the educated, uneducated.
All right, as we discuss about the VIP culture, I think one of the most common trend when it comes to this VIP culture that we witness in general, and this is not a personal point of view, but it has been a general discussions over the years, and that's we see this VIP culture even in the church. And I think that's very disturbing.
I was just about to say that. Yeah. Continue.
So, exactly. So we witness this same VIP culture, this special treatment even inside the church. And I think, like you've mentioned, there is a social hierarchy, there's an economic hierarchy. So of course there are hierarchies, but in the church to be witnessing such absurd trends where you're welcoming a VIP or someone who is in a higher position, they are made to sit. Sometimes they're even made to sit in the pulpit.
Right.
So how would you explain that?
I think this is something you and I, none of us like it, especially the common people. And see, when I was in college, my principal was Austin John. So Austin John used to say, You know, he didn't directly say this, but he used to imply how we Nagas are like when we are in the church, you know. We don't have John the Baptist anymore. We don't have Jesus anymore. We say, don't judge people. We have no right to say or speak this way to people. But we forget that Jesus was very explicit in the way he handled the Pharisees and people who were non-believers. Jesus was not the, apologetic, the kind of meek and the kind of servile person that he is painted out to be, because that's what our own insecurities want him to be. But Jesus was different. He called them, you children of snakes, you brood of vipers. John the Baptist, same thing. You children of snakes, you sinners. So in our church today, it's sad because our pastors are the ones who create the division in the church. If you are a pastor, always remember that you're standing in front of God. You are not to create some kind of an invisible wall between people who have and who don't have. And maybe it's not their intention to create that, but when in the church, you don't acknowledge ministers. You don't give them special treatment. And, for instance, even in the media also, when we have journalism teachers, we don't have an engineer coming and teaching us. We don't have musicians coming and teaching journalism to us. And you don't have rocket scientists who are taught by musicians or writers. In the church, and this is my opinion, but I will always stand by it, please don't give special treatment to MLAs, whether they're the chief minister of Nagaland or whether they are the president of the United States. Let's keep the church clean. In that sense, don't create invisible barriers where you acknowledge only those ones who have power and influence, and where you keep out the rest, the common people. And I think pastors have been very consistent when it comes to, keeping this practice in the church. And that is where VIP culture is formed, because the church is a place where your deepest value systems are formed. And the church is where I believe that some of the churches, not all I think, but most of the pastors also, I think we need to stop creating that VIP culture even within the church.
That's true, Al. And talking about the VIP culture, again, it's quite funny and questionable, because we see the VIP cars, the government cars, parked outside places that are quite questionable. Let's just say, for example, you see it in a marketplace, that's somehow acceptable. But then I don't have to name names, but we do see the cars parked outside places or in and around vicinities which are quite questionable. So that for sure deteriorates the whole image of the person, the designated person. Because it's most of the time it happens that it's not the person who is driving the car. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I think...
and I'm sure it's not legal also.
Yeah, it is not. It is not. I think generally, people who are self-aware, and it could be ministers, politicians, it could be youth or students, it could be parents, common people who represent themselves in public, they are self-aware, because the damage that they bring on themselves because of their poor conduct is not on them. It is on their prestige, on their families, on their children, husbands, on their wives, on their institutions, on the department they represent. So I don't know how to put it, but we have a lot of VIP people with their nice cars outside, like you said, in places that are a little questionable, you know, it will be wonderful to always see VIP cars in front of the church, which will be nice, but generally in places where you normally don't expect them to be. So I think they also need to just look a little bit deeper about their conduct, because when you say VIP, it means that they get a special treatment, a special privilege that is not accorded to any people, which means they have a higher responsibility to represent themselves well, to represent their institution well. So I think it is not a good thing, it is not right to be able to represent yourself in the poor light when you represent something which people respect.
All right, El. So one last thing before we wrap this up, I want to ask you this, as we discuss and speak about VIP culture, this, like you've mentioned before, the statement that you gave before, VIP culture is a mindset and not a practice. So that definitely means it's not even a code of conduct.
It's all here. Yeah, are you about to complete a question? Or?
Yes, so it's definitely not even a code of conduct that we have to, it's not in a rule book where people in higher hierarchy needs to have a special kind of treatment.
Right.
I'm sure there are some certain benefits they get, which is most probably from the government, but in general, socially, they're not supposed to get this kind of treatment. So when we talk about this, we also see that most of the time in the traffic, you see an ambulance, but then there's a convoy overtaking the ambulance. God knows where they're going, but that's the heavy VIP culture we see and witness here, even in our own state, but almost every day. How do we, like you've said, it's just a mindset, it's not a practice, and like I've said, it's not even a social conduct, it's not in a rule book. How do we come to a point where we totally get rid of such kind of trends and cultures? Because say 10, 20 years back, VIP culture was quite relevant. Prevalent. It was quite prevalent. Somehow it has decreased over the years because people have been vocal about it, but it's still there, we still see it, it still exists. So how do we come to a point where we wipe out this VIP culture? Because it does, we can talk about and discuss about the negative impacts or the positive impacts whatsoever, but it does really affect the common people.
Yeah, way back in 2009, I think there was a big fight in the middle of city tour. Yeah, so, you know, Mine, this minister came and then there was a huge jam just right at the city tour junction near the Popular Bakery. And then this minister with his bodyguards and escorts tried to just fly through it, and it hit someone. And that person is still there in our Legislative Assembly. There was a huge fight. The public started coming out and saying, who are you to do that? Just because you are a minister, you don't have the right to plow through people like that. And you are also under the law. Why are you rushing through that? And there is no space. There was a huge fight. Like I said, that minister, that person is still in our Legislative Assembly. And after that, the government issued a circular saying, I think it was 2008 or 2007. From now on, you escorts, you have to drive slow, you have to respect the people, you have to make sure that you don't rush ahead, you have to make way for ambulances also. Ambulances are first. And if you come across any minister that is trying to pull through the traffic and you see an ambulance, remember it's your right to stop that minister or whoever VIP is and let the ambulance go. And as a citizen, you are able to take such kind of actions too. I think we cannot stop what has happened, but going forward, I think we need to teach our children a little bit more about humility and modesty, and most important of all, thoughtfulness. So to care for people. So I think that's, like I said, that's the reason why I said it's all in a mindset. you know. If you are someone who has no money or power, but you think you are someone so important and you have power, you're going to mistreat people. So that's why I say it is a mindset. It's not a practice. So we should be able to tell our children that they need to take care of people. It's all in the mindset.
All right, Al, thank you for discussing this issue with us as we decipher deeper. There are so many more questions to ask, but it's more or less like a never-ending loop.
Yeah.
So as we're running out of time, we will conclude here, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
There was on the VIP culture and the discussions on that, and like I've mentioned, there are so many more discussions to decipher, but we'll be ending it here for now. Thank you for watching.